Let's get one thing straight. I don't care if people agree it was the loser of the 6th generation of consoles, or that it relied on first-party games. The GameCube was an awesome system, one of my personal favorites in fact. But the one problem it did have was a pretty lackluster RPG library. I mean, the N64 wasn't much different, but there is one really standout RPG the GameCube had, and that's Tales of Symphonia, released by Namco here in North America in the year 2004. Being yet another entry into the famed Tales series, Symphonia was one of my childhood favorites, but does it still hold up to older gamers today? Although the plot may have decayed a little with more years under my belt, the overall gameplay of Tales of Symphonia still kicks ass, and it's definitely worth a replay or picking it up if you haven't given it a shot yet. The plot follows our young hero, Lloyd Irving, and his journey to escort his childhood friend and the chosen one of the day, Colette, along with his childhood friend, Genus, I had to make sure I didn't screw that one up, and his sister Rain, along with a mercenary named Kratos. What starts as a journey to save the world somehow blossoms into an even bigger adventure, full of life lessons, betrayal, love, loss, rebellion, victory, and defeat. That's basically what the story of Tales of Symphonia boils down to. It's a classical, epic quest to save the world. It does succumb to a lot of the cliches associated with such a tale. As kids, we never really recognized them as cliches, but nowadays, some plot points are pretty noticeable. Despite this, there are still many amazing and effective moments. But at 50 hours or so, some can definitely see the story as kinda dragging, but I argue that it was a big story trying to cover a lot of ground and a lot of themes, and it did a pretty good job of holding it all together. But what really holds this tale together is the characters. I'd honestly have a difficult time trying to find a group of characters in an RPG that worked as well together as this cast. Lloyd is a fantastic lead character, being kind of a goofy guy, but still relatable, kind-hearted, and unbreakable. Although he did get pretty preachy, I swear to God he had a speech literally once an hour. Genus, Colette, Rigo, Rain, all of them are memorable, and most importantly, the chemistry between them is real. However subtle it is, you can tell that each character has a real and different relationship with each other, and the way they play off of each other is fantastic. It's a memorable cast, and they are honestly what makes this game. The gameplay is just as good as I remember it. A huge world to thoroughly explore, a 50+ hour quest spanning 2 discs, and enough dungeons to satisfy your 16th century English fetishes. Even aside from the main story, there's a ridiculous amount of extras, including items to find, special bosses to defeat, and cooking. But I never cook because who the plays a video game to cook?
The King Mama, too! Dinner with friends!
Oh. The coolest thing is how there's a lot of these little cutscenes or skits that you can access across the game, where characters either humorously interact and often add insight to their struggles across the quest. These are a fan favorite, and for good reason. Even though I love RPGs like Wild Arms 1 and 2, there seems to be an issue of characters not having any dialogue for like an hour, and you never really see what characters are going through on the journey. You don't know what your characters are thinking about each other on a quest a lot of the time, and it's just a lot of empty spaces that you could fill in yourself, but you want the narrative to fill in those gaps. Tales of Symphonia combats this with these little skits/cutscenes, which enhance the transitions in character development and fill in the blanks in a really innovative way. Hell, you can even change the story a little depending on the choices you make regarding characters in your party, making each playthrough a little different depending on how you interact with characters. It was and is a big game with a lot to do, explore, and see. It's a great quest. Now let's get into the battle system, and good God, is it ever so glorious! Ugh! First of all, let's point out one of the greatest points about this game, something you rarely see even in games today. I was never around when Secret of Mana was out. I was still like 2. But Tales of Symphonia was the first time I encountered a multiplayer console RPG. Oh my god, yes! Yeah, when I was a kid, this sold me and my brother on this title, and we beat it together. But I always played as Lloyd and made him use Genus. The camera is mine, fool! But yeah, the battle system is a really awesome use of real-time combat with fast-paced, addicting fighting. It was one of the few RPGs where you actually really wanted to get into a random battle because of how much fun it was. It was a really nice challenge too, being a system that was easy enough to learn with special attacks and guarding, but there can be a lot of strategy involved with choosing the right X skills, characters, titles, using items wisely, timing it correctly, everything. And that added strategy was welcome because the game packs a solid level of difficulty, though I never really recall it going overboard. With all of these different characters with different skills, the customization you can do, and all of this in a fast-paced RPG action system that you can enjoy with friends, what more do you want? The graphics in the game are fantastic in my opinion. For 2004 GameCube standards, the anime style just really stood out and gave the game a distinct feel, and the locations were so beautiful and memorable as well. Who could forget the beautiful silence of a snowy night in Fëanor, or the great cities spread across the planet? Yeah, it was all solid. Though, if I had to complain, the world map wasn't that memorable, and the enemies you see on screen could have had different animations. Still, there was clearly a lot of effort put into the ridiculous variety of locations you'll come across in this epic, sweeping quest. The music in the game was really good in my opinion. The soundtrack covers a very wide range of emotions, but most of the effort probably seemed to go into the battle music, which is all action-oriented, though the themes are a little too similar. Still, from the awesome opening theme right until the end, the game has a large and very memorable soundtrack. In addition, the voice acting in the game is top-notch. They got some pretty big-named voice actors to take these roles, and it shows in the quality.
Kratos, you pathetic, inferior being!
Feel the pain of those inferior beings as you burn in hell.
Like others, I just wish there was more of it, but what you get is still excellent. In conclusion, if you're watching this, you probably fall into two crowds. The first crowd already knows how awesome this game is, and is just checking in to make sure I don't talk shit about it. To the other group though, that hasn't played this title yet, you need to. The praise it gets is mostly warranted. The ideas I tried to get across in this review is that it's a big game, it's epic, it's sweeping, there's lots of dungeons to explore, there's a lot of places to visit, puzzles, enemies, everything. However, if you do want to play this game today, the prices have gone up quite a bit at last check, which makes me happy I somehow grabbed it for 10 bucks as a kid. However, fear not, for I have it on good word that an updated port of the game is coming to the PS3 in a year or so perhaps you can wait for that one. Tales of Symphonia is the RPG piece of the GameCube puzzle. Its characters and gameplay really make it a classic. It's a game with a lot of heart, but with the production value that makes it an adventure you just can't miss. Highly recommended. Thanks for watching.